Okay, great. So my name is Tyson, and today's training is going to be on a new tool that we've developed in ManagementPlus called the ManagementPlus Claims Worklist. We're also going to talk about how to manage your providers with Relay Health. And so the first part is we're going to talk about the work list, and then at the end we're going to talk about provider management. Now, if you don't have Relay Health as a clearinghouse, you're welcome to jump off of there if you're using a different clearinghouse with our software. But the claim work list is a tool that was released into the software on March 15th in that version. So it's actually the ManagementPlus version of 7.4.7 or 7.4.7. And I'm going to show my screen here. So on the main screen ManagementPlus, if you click on the About button from your shortcut buttons, it'll tell you what version you're on. And so right here on the top right corner, you have a DB version. So you do need to be on version 7.4.7 or later, or rather a newer version than that, in order for you to be able to see this claims work list. Now this option is free. You don't have to pay for it. And then also what we're going to talk about, like I said, is the provider management with Relay Health. They've allowed options now for their users to make sure that they're billing the clients or the physicians, providers, they're billing them correctly, and they want to make sure that they go into this provider management option and check for active or inactive providers and full-time and part-time physicians. Doing so will assure that they're billing you appropriately and not overbilling you. So we'll talk about both those things. Okay, so first things first, we'll talk about the claims work list. From our main screen, in order to access it, we will go to File, Billing. Now, in billing, we actually have two work lists now. There's the charge work list at the top, which is different. It works with either interface EHR system or our own EHR system. But we have another option now called the claims work list. So just make sure you're not in the charge work list. What we're going to be looking at today is the claims work list. Again, if you don't see that option, go ahead and check your version of ManagementPlus, and you do have to be on a version of 7.4.7 or newer, which means you've been upgraded after March 15th of this year. Okay. So I've got my claims work list here. I'm going to talk about the layout first before we get into the function. So our view at the top, we've got an option to change which charges, or rather which billing entity tied to these claims we're looking at. So we can click on the drop down, and if you have multiple billing entities, you can change that. Default is all billing entities, which will show there even if you have only one billing entity. Okay, so down here at the bottom where we have all of our information, I'm just going to talk about some of the basic options within the work list, and this is similar with all other work lists in ManagementPlus. So you have columns of information here. The first column on the very left, you'll notice are colors. So you've got red. If we scroll down here, we've got yellow, and then green at the very bottom. So those are indicators to show you how old a claim is, and the date that we're looking at is actually the creation date. It's not the date of service. So creation date would be the date that the charges were posted in ManagementPlus and the claim created. So what the red means is that the claims are 61 and older, or 61 days and older. And then you've got yellow, which would be 31 to 60, and then green would be your 0 to 30. So again, that's just showing the aging on how old those claims are. To the right, we've got the creation date. Again, that's what we're looking at, not the date of service. You've got the claim ID on the next column, which is the ManagementPlus claim ID. And then you have the physician, patient's name, the insurance, or the responsible insurance for the claim currently. And then you have the balance on the claim, what the status is, what the last change was, and then what that date was. So basically, last change is just the last action that was performed on that claim, and then when that happened. So like any work list, you have a couple ways to organize this information based on your preference. So you can hover over the top of any of the column headers. You notice I'm doing that now. And you can click on it. And by clicking on it, it will sort that information. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on the physician column. And that's just going to sort all of my claims by physician. So I have all my Dr. Adams claims here at the top and so forth. So you can do that by insurance, and it does alphabetically, or you can click on it again and it does the reverse of that. So the other option we have with these columns is we can filter out a view. So let's just say for example, our insurance, I only want to look at our Medicare claims. And what I would do is I just hover over the insurance column header, and to the right I've got a little box, and there's a picture of a funnel in there. It looks like an upside down triangle, but to the top right of that column, if you click on it, it shows all of the options that are available in that column, and I can go ahead and just click on any of these boxes, and that would filter out my view. So if I only want to look at this Medicare and maybe Medicare insurance, you notice now I'm only looking at those claims that are tied to that insurance that I selected. So I'll go back up here. The filter options now turn blue because I'm using it. But if I go and click on it, I can go and just uncheck those, and it would default to showing me everything. Last option we can do in here to organize the information is group it. So if we want to be able to see all of it, we don't want to filter out, what we can do is we can group by, let's just do by physician. So if we take the column header and we left click and hold, we can drag it up to this dark gray area right above it. And if I let go, what that does is it groups all of them. So they're still active in my screen, but they're just organized in groups. So I can click on the little plus sign at the very left of each line, and that will expand my view here, and it will show me all of the claims for this physician. So it just helps you organize the information. Now, if I want to get rid of that, I would just bring my physician column and I bring it back down into my view here. There we go, back to normal. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about up here with as far as the view goes is you notice you've got a bunch of arrows. Depending on the claim, this is going to change. But what this is it's basically the arrow shows, well, there's a date first, and then it shows an arrow, and it has a username inside it, and then to the right of it, it has the action. So this is showing everything that's happened with the claim. So you have the date that action was performed, who performed that action, which is the username within the arrow, and then what action was performed. So depending on the claim, this could be, you could have quite a lot, like you see with this current claim. There's a lot of actions that have happened. Now these actually correspond with the claim history on the financial form. And to access that, one functional part of this claim work list is you can right-click on any of these claims. And you have a right-click menu where you can open up the patient demographic, or you can go straight to the patient financials. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to open up the patient financials. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the claim view. So by default, I'm looking at the charge view. I'm going to go to the claim view. I'm going to look for that claim that's in our work list, which is this one right here. At the very bottom, we've got two tabs. We have claim status history, and charges on claims. So you should be familiar with these already. These aren't new. But the claim status history, you notice there's a bunch of options in here, or rather history that shows up, and all of these will show up in the claims work list. And it will show you again the date, who did it, and what action was performed. So all the actions that will show up in here in this history is any time that you process a claim out to insurance, or reprocess it, or roll it back to be reprocessed, or any time that you come into the claim and manually flip or change these processing flags or received action flags, that automatically adds a history or an audit trail on the claim. And then that will show up up here when you're looking at it on the claims work list. The other things that will show up on here as well are insurance payments or insurance adjustments, if you applied that adjustment during the posting of the insurance payment. So those things will all show up in here in the history, and it gives you a little bit more information to go off of. Okay, so now as far as working this list, again, you can sort you can sort this first column and organize it however you want. If you want to have the 0 to 30 at the top here, or 61 plus at the top, it's up to you. If you click on the filter here, you have just the 0, 1, 2 option. And so clicking on the 2 would be the 61 plus, 1 would be the 31 to 60, and then 0 would be the 0 to 30. So you could filter that as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with very top claim. And if I wanted to work this claim, you basically would just go through your normal steps. So I would pay attention to any reports from the clearinghouse or from the payer as to what's going on with this claim. And you could right-click again, go to open the patient financials, look at the charge notes for the claim, and try to figure out, you might need to call the payer. But with this claim for Keith, he's at the very top of my list. But I'm going to go ahead and just investigate these charges and see, or maybe I got a report back from the payer, and I noticed that the diagnosis code is missing on these. So I'm going to go ahead and just add this diagnosis code, post it. Okay, so now I need to reprocess this. I made a change. I want to make sure I send it back out to the insurance. I'm going to go to my claim view, and this was the claim here. I'm going to double click to look at my processing events. And I'm going to go ahead and just manually change this processed action from yes back to no, and that way it'll show up in my next batch of claims that I process, and I'll send that out as a corrected claim to the insurance. Okay, there we go. So I've fixed that one. Now I'll just move on to the next one. Now you'll notice that the status might not update right away, which is true. It doesn't. This work list doesn't just automatically refresh. You do have to manually do that. The only way currently to make it refresh manually is to just change your view up here at the top left. So if you remember, we have our billing entity. If you click on the drop down, you'll at least have one option which shows your billing entity, and you can click on that, and that will refresh your view. And then come back to the top here. Now the status went from processing, now it shows waiting to process. So last action was today by myself, which I'm logged in under the SYS DBA account, and it shows my action, which is user set to reprocess. I manually set it to reprocess. Okay, and that's it for the charge work list. So this was a request made by a number of our clients, and our development team has decided to create this tool. So if you do have any suggestions as to something that might make the software better, please don't hesitate to email us an enhancement request and just let us know what you think. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into provider management on Relay Health's end. So I'm going to close out my work list. And there's 3 different ways to manage your provider information with Relay Health. They have 2 websites, Connect Center and Collaboration Compass. And the last option is ACM. So if your practice uses the Ambulatory Claims Manager, which is a tool that you have to purchase through Relay Health, but if you do use that, then you can also update your provider. So first thing we're going to look at is how to update the provider information on Connect Center. So if you're not familiar with Connect Center, let me show you what it looks like here. So Connect Center is Relay Health's website that they launched last year sometime, and its intent was to replace Collaboration Compass, which is the website they've used for years. Now, both are actually still functional. You don't have to start using Connect Center if you don't want to. They both are still open, and from what we've heard, that there's no specific date on when or if they might stop using Collaboration Compass. So if you're familiar with this, we're going to show you how to do it or update the providers on this website first. If you're interested in logging in and start using Connect Center, there are some nice features on here, and we do have a training video that was done by Relay Health, and it's about an hour long on our training website. And so if you want to log in there and ManagementPlus.com and go to the training videos, there's a Relay Health Connect Center video that you can watch. But if you do need to, if you do want to start using it, you do have to come to the sign up option here and just put in your submitter ID and all the information. You can submit a request to have an account created for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and log in. Okay, so when you first log in, I'm not going to talk about any of the features here, but what we want to do is you're not going to see all of these tabs at the top, but you should see at least an admin tab. Now, if you don't, please just notify our support team, and we can go ahead and make sure you have the necessary options to do what I'm teaching you today. But under the admin, if we go to provider management, so here's going to list all of the providers that have ever been added to claims for your practice. Now, Relay Health will automatically register a provider for your practice if you tie it to a claim. So that's just an automatic feature that they do. They're not going to reject a claim because you haven't registered the physician. But what they do is when they add that physician, automatically they add it as a full-time doctor or provider. And if that's not true, so if in reality the doctor's actually just part-time, then they are going to be overcharging you. It is more expensive, a monthly fee for a full-time doctor versus a part-time. So what we suggest doing is logging in to Relay Health's website and just taking a look at your active and inactive providers, make sure that's correct. And then what you'll want to do is just click on your provider, and it will open up the information for them. Now, what the main indicator of a physician that's full-time versus part-time is right here where it says type. So there's 2 options. Physician is a full-time physician, and part-time is non-physician. And part-time, what Relay Health refers to as part-time physicians are any physicians that submit less than 200 claims per month. So if your physician does submit less than 200 claims per month, then you should make sure that they are set as a part-time physician on Relay Health's website here. So this is a full-time physician. If I wanted to change that, it's just as simple as changing this type to non-physician and saving it, and then that will update your billing moving forward. Now, also, if you notice that you have an active provider in here, but they are no longer active, uh, you will want to deactivate them so you're no longer paying for them. So what you'll do then to deactivate a physician is you'll come into the same screen at the bottom right corner. You have a deactivate button. Just click on that. You'll click on the deactivate reason and then when you want that to expire. So you could set it as today, or if you want to be proactive and you know a physician's leaving you, you can come in here and set it for a couple months in the future. One thing to keep in mind with that, though, is even if the physician is left, if you're still submitting claims for that physician or uh, corrected claims or anything like that, and you've deactivated them, Relay Health will reactivate them once more because they have claims that they've received for that physician. So just make sure that you might want to give it a little bit of a buffer of when the physician leaves to when you come in here and deactivate them. Okay, so last thing you can do is you can also add the physician manually. So if you want, again, to be proactive and add the physician in here instead of having Relay Health manually add the physician when you send claims for that doctor, you can come in here and just click on create, and you would just need to fill in all of the fields that have an asterisk next to them, and which would be the MPI, provider entity, and then whether it's a full-time or part-time physician, and then you can go ahead and save that. Okay, so that's Connect Center. Let me show you how to do that same thing in Collaboration Compass. So here's Collaboration Compass's login screen. Okay, and here's the home screen for Collaboration Compass. The options that we're going to go to up at the top are going to be under registration. So under registration, you should have a providers option. So go ahead and click on providers. Now it will ask for your submitter ID when you're looking at providers. If you don't know what your submitter ID is, the submitter ID is listed on the majority, if not all, of your reports that you receive from Relay Health, or you're welcome to reach out to our support team or Relay Health directly and ask for that submitter ID. So I'm going to go ahead and put in ours. So I have the same view here to where it shows my one physician that's tied to my submitter. And if I select it, down at the bottom I have an Edit Selected button. I'm going to go and click on that. So I have the same options that I did in Connect Center. It's laid out a little bit differently, but if I go to the type, this is where I would set non-physician for part-time or physician for full-time. Okay, and I can also deactivate this physician from Collaboration Compass as well. So I click on that button that says, are you sure you want to deactivate the provider? I click yes, I put in the date and the reason, and I go ahead and save it. So again, pretty simple. But, and we also, like I mentioned before, we do recommend you coming in and at least looking at the physicians, even if you haven't had any changes and since you started the practice or for a long time, then we'd still recommend coming in, familiarizing yourself with this process, and just double checking, making sure that all your physicians are set up appropriately. Okay, so the last option to manage your providers is through ACM. So I'm going to go ahead and log into ACM here. Okay. So you should be familiar with this view of ACM. This is the claim manager view. Now on the left or up at the top, you should have a search tools option. So I'm going to go ahead and click on search tools. Within search tools, you should have a provider list in the second column, third button down. So if you click on the provider list, this will show you your physicians. I'm going to go ahead and double click to open up the physician information. Okay, so this is a little bit different than what we looked at with the websites. So for your full-time positions, how it's going to look is right here. Entity type should have person, provider type should be set as billing, and then over to the right here you have billing method, and that should be set as per doc. So if you want to change this to a part-time physician, you would change it, you would just basically come over and change it to per transaction as the billing method. And that's all you would need to do on that. Now, if you needed to deactivate this physician, then what you would do is you would come up to, you would come over to the billing end, and you'd put in a date there to end the billing. And then you would go ahead and change over here the entity type, you would change it to non-person. And then you also want to make sure that it's set as per transaction. So that's if you're deactivating the physician. You do those three things. Change it to non-person entity type, put in your billing end date, and then change it to per transaction. Now with Relay Health, they will actually send you a report every month and let you know what you're being billed for. So within the receive window of ManagementPlus, when you receive your Relay Health reports, you should have a report that starts with a B as in boy and a P as in Paul, so BP, as well as a B as in boy, S as in Sam, a BS report. And what those are they are flat fee billing reports, and they show the summary and the detail. So they will actually show what you're being billed for, how many physicians and how many claims and what their status is and everything. So you can monitor those to each month to make sure that that's correct. Okay, so that's the last option to update your provider management. So again, for part-time physicians, in the ACM here, they're going to be set up as a entity type person and provider type billing, and then they're just going to be set as per transaction. And if we go back to Connect Center, same thing here. If you were adding a new physician or updating an existing physician to be part-time, you just want to make sure that this is set as non-physician. You would have this set as the provider entity, make sure that their MPI ID is in there, and then their first and last name. So last thing here is there was a question regarding advantages between using Collaboration Compass and Connect Center. It really just comes down to personal preference. There is the dashboard here. It does have a few more features than what you would see at Collaboration Compass, but really it just comes down to what you're familiar with. You should have all the same options as far as functions go between both websites. So again, if you're interested in using the Connect Center, I would watch the video we have on our website called the Relay Health Connect Center training video. Okay, well that's it for today's webinar. Appreciate you guys attending. I will open it up here for questions here in just a minute, so stay on if you have any questions.